It's not quite 6:30, so we'll start with the pre-program infomercial here. Next week we have kind of Ethan Gagnon, one of our guys. He's a student, and he's going to be giving our safety presentation. So if someone else is interested in giving a presentation on another day on some specialty you have, that would be very much welcome. I know that, like Charlie Fecto talked to us one time about, chainsaw safety. So if you have a specialty that you're excited about, we'd love to have you up here. There we go, 6:30. Get started here. The code of conduct item of the week is to strive for restraint, discretion, and integrity. Code items. Yeah, I'm going to push that button there. Okay, we're going to talk in a few moments about confined space. There's been some changes in the industry, not so much to us, but throughout the construction industry. And we have some new employees here, Zachary McWayne and Joshua Mather. Either of you guys here? Which one are you?
Zach McWayne.
Zach? Okay, is Joshua here? Josh? Oh, okay, well, welcome, and please introduce yourself afterwards. And let's say this is the last call on fare tickets, so if you haven't signed up, if you need to, make sure you let Sarah know she has the list. And also, we turned 50 this year, but also we want to remind everybody, too, that weekends are a good time to secure your job trailers very tightly for the weekend because of people out causing problems on weekends. Then, of course, you pretty much all know that Bob Kimball passed away this week. He was born on January 10th, 1958, and he passed on Sunday evening, which was the 19th. And he died of a stroke. He had complications after the stroke and a second stroke. So Bob worked on a lot of the crews here. He's on the solar crew. And he worked with ECI since 2011, and he served on several different crews since then. He was certainly highly regarded by everybody and admired for his old Vermont wit. Visiting hours were last night, and funeral services 11:30 today at the United Church of Fairfax, followed by a burial at the Fairfax Plains Cemetery, and then a reception at BFA Fairfax. So I went last night to the visiting hours, and it made me proud. Bob's there, lying in state, whatever you call it, with a ECI T-shirt and a shirt over that, and a hat, an ECI hat on his breast, and a tape measure and his hunting rifle and that sort of stuff. So it made me feel proud that he's taken a piece of ECI with him. This place meant a lot to him, and as it does to a lot of us. So for technical tips this week, we're going to continue talking about horizontal curves. Remember, horizontal curves, use horizontal curves to build highways, railroads, and curbing, other types of structures possibly. Buildings sometimes might have a rounded facade. And this is the second part. We're going to talk about the horizontal curves. There's a lot to it, as I mentioned before. And here it is. It's basically a piece of pie, right? And we talked about the point of curvature, the PI, and the PT, and how these tangents come together at the PI and then form a curve. And from there we have a radius of the curve. So from the center point, it's the center point of the circle. We have a chord length, which goes across from the PC to the PT. There's the middle ordinate, which is that distance from the chord out to the circle. And then there's an external distance to get to that PI. All these things are important. And this delta angle, which is the angle between the two straight lines or the tangents. So we're just going to talk about the layout of the curve. And what's normally done, traditionally what's done, is the surveyor sets up on the PC. He shoots the line out to the PI, so he follows the line he's on with his instrument, and then he turns an angle to a point and measures out a distance off his survey instrument. And then he turns it again and takes another distance off a different angle, and then turns it again, and eventually lays out that curve. in this next illustration, or kind of this piece of wedge here is shown here. It doesn't really show up on the same image on the screen. But you look at it in terms of these little pie wedges, and if you go out a distance, say one station number or to the next nearest station number, you'll turn an angle down here, and then what you have, what Mike Twomley was setting up with his instrument here, he would turn that delta angle equal to half of that angle. You have to compute all this. And then the way to do it is calculate that subchord. So instead of the chord going all the way across, it's a subchord. Still has the same radius. So what you have to do is sort out all the information, and the computers will do it easily for you nowadays. But by geometry, you figure out the deflection angle, and then you basically compute that chord length. It's all computed by trigonometry and geometry. It's an easy calculation, as I'm saying here. Once you get everything sorted out, it's getting everything all sorted out that's the challenge. Unless you have it all programmed into a computer. But I think Mike Twomley, Mike, you here, or Ryan here? These guys cheat nowadays, okay? This really challenging thing about horizontal curves, nowadays we use, a lot of times, not always, but we use GPS systems. And the curves can be staked out just by taking out the data collector and the rover receiver and going around and looking on the screen to see where that curve line is and put your stake right there. So it's quite a bit simpler, but still the ideas and the understanding has to be, Mike and his guys know all that and understand how it's done and what they're doing. It's not just going to a line and, plopping in a stake. And of course, we also have some machine-controlled GPS equipment, like in this case, my example is either a grader or a dozer blade, where it does all the work for you. You don't even have to really stake things out. And that would take the information from the model called the tin, which basically tells the blade, based on its position on the ground, what elevation it should be at, so it tries to grade to that elevation or fill to that elevation. So I'm going to talk about the St. Johnsbury-Lindenville project. That's a multiple grade crossing project as part of a paving project. And Pike is the general contractor. We're working for them. We have 5 grade crossings at different locations. First one was completed on Broad Street in Lindenville, and that's Route 5. It's a relatively busy roadway, but fortunately for the guys, they closed the road off because the traffic could get detoured around. It improved it, made it a lot simpler to do. So there's the final crossing. I don't know, maybe the road is still shut down there, Gene, do you think?
No, it's open.
It is. Well,
it's open. They just haven't, Pike hasn't done the final paving up to it yet.
But as far as no traffic, I just said it's a very busy roadway, and it looks like there's no traffic up there. But there is. And each crossing is constructed with precast concrete panels by the Omni Grade Systems, and the work includes new ties, rail, ballast, and under drainages and some other work. And we're currently working on a more challenging and much longer 216-foot skewed crossing on Memorial Drive in St. Jay. That's near the Ford dealer. You can actually see the Ford dealer. That split, that Y in the road, brings you down to kind of downtown St. Jay versus going up on top of the hill by going straight. And this crossing is a long, skew one, and it is a very busy one. And unfortunately, this one, we don't have the luxury of closing off traffic. So we had to phase all the work to allow traffic to pass during the day and then to get back to two-way traffic in the evenings and during rush hour. Of course, that long skew still has a lot of track work off from the actual roadway because the panels extend beyond the pavement at that skewed length. Oops, here we go. And other crossings are Old Center Road, Mill Street, Concord Ave, and St. Jay. Well, I left a little note. I said that rumors that large trophy trout are frequently caught in Passumpsic nearby are untrue. And I advise you not to waste your time fishing there, okay? And I assume that nobody looked at that link, right? Okay, I'm glad. All right. 4 free tickets. Alberta.
Nice.
Good. 3rd responder. So there you go. I know that there were some other responses. If you're looking for others to go with you, Rob wanted to go for one. I think he sent me a text later. No, okay. I think that Ken Pelosi and let's see, was it Ken and Matt, and then you and Rob, and might have been one other later. So I'm sure you could find some friends today. Rob, you're probably out of luck.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I just knew that she can go.
You're probably the driver, though. You probably drive everybody down and drop them off, bring them home and back. So this was actually a photo. I was curious about where the seats were, and I Googled the seat location, and there's this site called aviewfrommyseat.com, and this is pretty close. It was like on the first row of the Grandstand 19, but it's essentially behind home plate, up about 9 more rows from this image. So the only bad, unfortunate part is that you're not going to catch any foul balls because they'll get trapped in the net. But the better thing is you're not going to get hit in the head with a foul ball.
Or a baseball bat.
Or a baseball bat or anything. Yeah. So, okay, well, as I said, there's some changes to the confined space entry procedures. It's not really changes to us, but it's just industry changes. The construction standards have moved up to a more rigorous level of the general industry practice, which we've already been practicing at. So Matt's going to talk about confined space in general, just to remind us of one of the things, how do you identify it, right? I mean, One of the key things is understanding before you get into a situation, if you are getting into a confined space, what is that particular spot, a confined space?
Yeah, as Ken was saying, that's how a lot of people always say, why does that construction company not, go in those manholes, perform work? It's because really the construction standard didn't have a confined space regulation in which VOSHA, could fine you. But now coming in August 3rd, and there's a little grace period for 90 days, we're giving construction companies enough time to get acclimated into the new standard. Something that Stu implemented a long time ago. He saw the foresight of having a higher policy because this was coming down the pipeline. It finally did. It took them a long time to pass, but now it's at our doorstep. So the biggest thing is confined space. What is it? The definition of confined space, it's large enough so someone can bodily enter, perform work. It has limited restricted means of entry and exit, and is not designated for human or for continuous employee or human occupancy. So they also kind of give us some ideas, and they say manholes, sewer, storm drain, electrical, communication, any other type of utility manhole would be considered confined space. Any tanks, fuel, chemical, water, or other solid or liquid gas tanks would be considered a confined space. And then precast concrete and other preformed manholes, drill shafts, or any type of casings, they can consider it a confined space. So the biggest thing with this new kind of regulation change is we just need to make sure we can all identify what a confined space is. And no employee is authorized to go in a confined space unless they've had training. Okay, this training that we're doing now kind of lets us know, kind of puts us into that training category where we're all trained and we kind of identify what a confined space is. But it's another thing great about our tailboard is we have a confined space line. And it doesn't hurt for you guys if you're going to do confined space work, other than saying, Matt or Alberta's coming and taking care of confined spaces. You actually list what the confined space is. If it's a sewer manhole, if it's electrical vault, if it's a catch basin, wastewater tank, throw that on the tailboard, because then you now have identified your confined space in the product. So one of the reasons why this has really come to the forefront is just there's been actually a lot of fatalities in the United States about people going into brand new sewer structures, performing some back tests. So here's a little case study, and I thought it was very interesting. It gets you thinking about, just the fear of the unknown and things that we kind of take for granted. OSHA received notification of a construction site fatality on August 5th, way back in 2004, following the day of the incident. Reported that the employee was found in the bottom of the manhole. There was a new sewer system under construction. All right, the site was just, laying sewer pipe and manholes for new housing development, something that we do very frequently here at ECI. 6 employees on site. It's kind of a farmland, slightly hilly. Manhole was adjacent to the entrance ramp of a highway. So here's kind of the confined space, very deep structure. You can see it's 17 feet. It's 4 foot wide. You got 2 8-inch PVC pipes in the bottom. Okay, what happened is they were doing a vacuum test on the structure, something that we do very frequently here, and the vacuum tests failed. So, when a vacuum test fails, what do we usually have to do? Try to figure out grouting any seams or anything like that, try to make the sealant better so we can pass that vacuum test. So what happened is, as the vacuum test, you're sucking all the air out, the soil was a very like a limestone type of soil, and that kind of has like a carbon dioxide characteristic to it. So as they're sucking the manhole air, carbon dioxide, which is an inert kind of gas with displaced oxygen, was filling up with that structure. So when an employee went down and entered, there was oxygen deficiency, which means lack of oxygen in that space. So the employee went down in there with about 10 to 11% oxygen in that space, when our bodies, we need somewhere between 19.5 to 23.5% oxygen to function. So he went down in there, worked for maybe 5 or 6 seconds, got lightheaded, dizziness, and then he became unconsciousness. There's not enough oxygen to breathe. So the tail, the grout was done. The employee was working alone, and the employee was found at the bottom of the manhole unconscious. Biggest thing is these spaces that's like that silent killer testing. We have no idea what type of the atmospheric hazards are. They were doing air monitoring after they got the employee out. They still had an oxygen deficiency. It was 16.3 and 17% oxygen. Here's some more readings. They had a little bit of carbon monoxide, and then there was high levels of LEL, which I was shocked at, but 5 to 8%. Again, when we go into these spaces, that's why it's very important that we always check air quality before we enter, because we do not want to put an employee in any space when there is a potential hazard such as oxygen deficiency, carbon monoxide, LEL, or hydrogen sulfide. So they kind of did the same characteristic again, and they found out after they did a vacuum test, we're at about 12.5 to 14% oxygen. That's just not enough for us to be in a space, and especially if you're working, it's a very fatal situation. And again, you don't know. You look down in this space and you think everything's fine. You have no idea until you go down there, and then you really start to panic. So yeah, carbon dioxide is a colorless, odorless gas, displaced oxygen leading into oxygen deficiency. It's a special problem in the Midwest, but again, limestone rock, acid topsoils, acid leaches from soil, which then contacts the limestone producing carbon dioxide. That's kind of how it broke down. There's been numerous fatalities, especially new sewer vaults leaking, testing using vacuums, plus pulls carbon dioxide into the space. The oxygen measures less than 3% on similar fatalities. So there's been quite a bit. Again, it's kind of more in the Midwest, but again, you just never know. And something like I saw this, I was just like, wow, we do this all the time. And we have to sometimes go in and tighten some things, work on some joints, and you never know. That's why it's so important that you don't take it for granted. Each time you come in and out of space, let's check. Let's check the oxygen levels. Let's be sure we know that this space that we're going into is safe. I mean, we probably have one of the best confined space programs, and everybody's up on speed on it. But again, it's just a good refresher for us just to, don't take that shortcut just to go in and grab something in that space, because you just never know what could be lying in that manhole. Is there any questions? Well, that's all I have. Thanks for your time.
I'll tell my hazardous atmosphere story. Maybe you heard it before. It wasn't a confined space, but I was on back in the 90s, I guess, on the Central Artery Project. There was a building called Nagley Seafoods or something like that. Turner Seafood it was. Seafood building, processed seafood, right next to the big excavation. And there was some ground movement, so we had to go inside the building, and my project engineer brought me in, and we were in the wastewater side of the building. And I didn't think much of it until I got in there. I started to feel lightheaded. My eyes started to water and everything. And I'd been trained for hazmat training and everything. And I'm like, oh, I said, his name was Rob. I said, Rob, there's something wrong here. This isn't right. He's like, oh, no, it's fine. It's onion ring day. Like, oh. Okay. So, anyway, Sarah, do you have something for us? Ah, everybody has to sign these documents, right?
Everybody. There is zero exception.
I've already done it. Is that an exception?
Yeah.
Or do I have to do it today, too?
So pass these around.
So everybody has to do it. This is like state of Vermont needs to know all our health insurance status and everything. So do we have enough pens?
I figured there was some over there.
All right. So no one gets out the door. Sarah's gonna.
You're not getting your
right there.
paycheck until these are turned in. How about that?
You gotta fill them
So,
Yeah, we should have put it up on the screen, maybe. I didn't make a copy.
I can scan it.
Yeah, I can send my email if you want.
Yeah, we'll just scan it real quick. You watch. We'll put it right up on the screen. Oh, yeah.
So there's different options for everybody. So if you guys look at the form, if you are on engineers, construction, health insurance, you need to check off the top box that says I have offered and I'm eligible and you've elected the ECI insurance. That's it. It's coming out of your paycheck. That top box gets checked off. If you are not on ECI health insurance,
you gotta keep the speaker out of your lap.
so if you're on engineers construction, it's this box here. If it's coming out of your paycheck, this is what the box you need to check off.
You scroll down a little bit. There you go.
If you have opted not to be on engineers if you've opted not to be on ECI health insurance because you are covered by your wife,
You covered it all.
you check this box, and then I need you to write what the carrier is. If it's Cigna, MVP, Cross Blue Shield.
I pay 190.
I need you to find out. I think you're Blue Cross Blue Shield if it's UVM Medical.
Like a car payment.
If you are covered by the state of Vermont health insurance, it's this box here, that you're on the Vermont Health Benefit Exchange. And if you have no health insurance at all, it's this box here. I have no health care.
I don't know.
You mean security number?
Yep, the whole top needs to be filled out.
Sure.
Is there any like summer part-time people here?
What's up?
Okay, so you're going to be in this bottom box here, and then whether, do you have health insurance? Like, are you on your parents? So you check off this box here. You're a seasonal employee, and you have health insurance.
Probably double what you pay, huh?
Does anybody have any questions about where they fall under? And then obviously down at the bottom, you have to certify that the above information is correct, and then I need you to sign and date it.
Full garden of pen. There you go. Full garden of pen.
Does anybody have any questions?
Up here with